everybody. You're listening to and possibly watching the Comic Book Bears podcast. I'm Bill Zanowitz.
I'm Steve Morey.
I'm Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
And we are your hairy, heavy homos that talk about comic books, but you don't have to be a hairy, heavy homo to listen in, or as we said, possibly stream in. So it's been 2 weeks since I've seen you fellas.
I know.
Been a little bit, just tiny bit longer since I see my regular fella. Yeah, I'm a bachelor right now, which is one of the reasons why you don't see boxes here, because I'm able to spread out and organize.
Excellent.
So, going slowly, but we'll see how things happen. So yeah, my other half, he is helping his sister out. She lives in the Bay Area, and she had a fairly substantial knee operation. Everything went very well. The
Good.
PT is going very well. It looks like he's still going to be out there like 2 or 3 months, but so that's what's happening in my world there. And so Rob's out there. He's taking care of a Grand Pyrenees dog.
Oh,
So
that's a big baby.
it's a big baby.
Very big baby.
Yeah. Very big baby. So a big baby is taking care of a big baby. So basically.
I love that he's able to go do that, though. That's all.
Yeah, no, it is. It's very good. And well, how are you guys doing?
Well, I mean, just plugging along with work. It's been a pretty solid 2 weeks of just stuff. We're in the busy season. We've just finished an RFP, so we got to start implementing that for all those people who know what that is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's literally the dog days of summer, but for the logistics business right now.
Yeah.
So, but I have been able to get to go see some pretty good movies. I saw Weapons this past weekend, which I know some of our fellow Movie Bear and Real Gay Movie Show podcasters have seen. I can't tell you anything about it because to do so would ruin it, but I really enjoyed it. The friend of mine who went with thought it was the most ridiculous movie he's ever seen. So, I mean, we're talking wide range of opinions. We had people in the theater who loved it and people who were just sort of walking out like, what did I just watch? So, yeah, I recommend seeing it and getting your own opinion on it because it is, it's pretty dang wild.
I've heard really good things. Really, really good things.
Yeah. So, most of the people I know have, if not necessarily raved about it, came out on the positive end. So.
It's entertaining for sure. So even if you come out of it and say, "Oh my god, I hated it," most likely you were also entertained by it. If you liked Barbarian, which was Zach Kreger's, who's the director, is his last film from a couple years ago, I really enjoyed that one. This one kind of takes the strangeness and just cranks it up to 11. So. Yeah. It's an interesting way to spend a couple hours in an afternoon.
Okay. And how about you, Caleb? What have you been up to?
It's been a day. Just staying really busy with work and life and all that fun stuff. So, nothing really to write home about. But today was shitty. Other than that, but
sorry,
it just bees like that sometimes. But no, so good things are happening. The nonprofit that I do a lot of work for just located a building that we are going to be able to hopefully purchase and use as our own emergency shelter in the winter times. And also because we operate a farm, use it to sell, things that we grow on the farm and turn that into tents and tarps and things like that for the unsheltered community here in Little Rock, in Central Arkansas area. And just trying to wrap up the end of the summer. It's been about 105 degrees here for 3 weeks straight. My air conditioner decided to go out this week, but I was able to get it fixed. So that sucked for a little bit. But other than that, just,
okay,
getting by.
Well, I got to say, Caleb, that's the first I heard of the van owning a farm. Do the unhoused work the farm?
Or... Oh, have I not told you about that?
No.
So
I
yeah,
didn't know
so
about that now.
there's effectively three prongs to the van, right? So we have the van, which is the part that I'm the most associated with, where we get donations from the community and they give us clothes and hygiene items and camping gear and just anything somebody might need to make it from one day to the next. And we load it into the van, and myself and some other volunteers we'll go drive it out and give it to people. The other two sides to what we do is we have something called the back five fields, which is we bought 5 acres of land, and Aaron is the guy who started the van. He farms. We grow crops. We grow stuff that people can eat, but we also like tomatoes and all kinds of fruits. We've got bees and we do honey, and so he kind of does that full time. And we take a lot of the stuff out to the camps because the folks that live outside in those camps, they can cook. They have grills. We get them things to cook with. They just don't have access to fresh fruits and vegetables and stuff. So we give them fresh food, but we also sell it to local restaurants and things like that. And then we use the money that comes from that to turn around and put it back into things that don't get donated, right? Like tents and stuff like that. Some of the bigger ticket items, gas money for the van, water and things like that. So we operate that as well, and then the third part is the aspect that we do the emergency shelters and stuff like that too. Historically, we have always pushed back against doing a thrift store. A lot of nonprofits operate when they operate on donations. They also have a thrift store. People come and shop and stuff, and they take that money. We haven't ever done that, and the idea was, we just don't resell. We don't want to get into that, or we haven't before. But we have got a whole lot of stuff that gets donated that we can't use. Just weird and random, quirky stuff. I mean, Halloween costumes, all kinds of high heels. We have a wall of shame of just absurd shirts that come by. Just weird. Like, a lot of look, for better or worse, a lot of people, they clean out their houses and closets and just give us a lot of random stuff. And we're like,
Right.
we're just holding on to that. We could be, if somebody wants to pay $1 for it, they can pay $1 for it. So we're just going to do that, I think, and operate that as kind of a thrift store. And when I say operate it, we are going to be, Aaron's going to be overseeing everything, and he is going to be taking people who are either currently unsheltered or formerly unsheltered, recently rehoused, and they are going to be working there, and we pay them a living wage. We make sure that they've got all their IDs and stuff. We pay them, actually pretty good money, take taxes out of everything. So we give them a good job, and that way they can actually make some money. So a couple different moving parts of that. So really excited about that aspect of everything. I didn't realize you didn't know about that.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that aspect of it. That's
Yeah,
really cool.
I'm not involved too much with the field just because just the time that, I'm not, I don't have a green thumb. I don't enjoy farming. If you need me to go like lift hay and carry heavy things, I'm cool with that. But other than that, I'm just not a, farmer guy.
Well, see, you could do that. You could just go lift hay, lift heavy things. Just stand out there, either shirtless or in like just overalls, and that could be the van calendar for the next year, and that would be a way to get money as well.
Ironically, we have thought about doing something similar to that as a fundraiser, just having van volunteers, like kind of do like the I don't know, you see a lot of people do those ironic calendars. It's not the hot firefighters, but it's the traditionally hot fire. It's like what we think is hot. It's the bear firefighters, right? And so we thought about doing something like that, but that hasn't gone into motion yet.
You could sell it at the future thrift store. I mean, that could be,
I'm just gonna
hang it.
OnlyFans page and donate part of the proceeds to the van.
I mean, you could, yeah. I mean, I'm sure both of us would be, donating some money to your, for subscriptions for the OnlyFans.
My first 2 subscribers.
Yes. But that's awesome. I didn't realize that there was other aspects to the van. I did know about the emergency shelters. I always pay attention to those when you have those listed, because you talk about them on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And then the van itself is just really awesome. I just, the concept, it works really well. That there's something that can actually go out to people who need it, rather than being somewhere stationary where everyone has to kind of come and make their way there, which can be difficult for some people.
Well, in a city like Little Rock too, I mean, you guys, so I think you two are, you live in kind of the Northeast and near Charlotte and stuff, and those are bigger cities and they have better, they're just larger cities in general. They have better public transportation and stuff. Little Rock's a very rural. I mean, it's 250,000. It's the biggest city in Arkansas, but it's 250,000. That's a town in other places, right? So we don't have a train system. We have a bus system, but it doesn't go all everywhere it needs to go. So and it's spread out. Like it's very spread out. So we're able to get it. People can't walk 14 miles across town. So we have different volunteers who go to different parts of town and bounce back and forth. And that's the idea is we go to meet them where they are.
Cool. That's really cool.
Cool. I did something comic book related during our break. I went the first time to Terrificon.
Yay!
Connecticut at the Mohegan Sun Casino. And I only had the one day there, the Saturday, and it wasn't enough time. It just wasn't enough time. It wasn't the size of Heroes or Baltimore, but maybe soon, in terms of the at least the shopping aspect of it. I didn't have nearly enough time to do everything I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So that's a consideration for next year. I also do want to say this. I don't mean to bash people. I don't mean to bash particular music acts, but if you're ever feeling uncool, you think you're uncool, all you need to do is go watch the people who are online to see Hanson in 2025. I guarantee you will feel better about yourself. I guarantee it.
I didn't know Hanson was touring.
Yeah. Wow. They were playing at the casino that night. And as I was leaving, I saw the people entering the show. And that was a little more entertainment. And look, we got another cat guest there. I hear some meowies.
So I don't know what my cats are doing, so I'll probably be on mute a little bit more. But both Zinnia and Aster seem to be having chats with a plethora of ghosts. I don't know. They're just running up and down the stairs and just... It's adorable. It is adorable, but it's also kind of annoying when I'm recording.
And given the circumstance that I'm in right now, whoa,
what was that? Did someone die?
Yeah.
That's Phoebe. Phoebe was like, I will also have none of that, running up and down the stairs.
There we go. Well, just in keeping with the name of our show, I went to my first bear event in ages.
Yeah.
On Saturday. And I've missed bear soup. I really have. Had tastes of it, like Steve at his particular, but it, when it's an event, it's something special. I had a great time, and that was at Asbury Park, their bear invasion, one on the Saturday. So I was feeling good, and how I was bitching about not being tan. Well, baby got caught up. Baby got caught up here.
Speaking of, I don't know if you can see, but I've got an amazing tan line.
Excellent. That's excellent. Very, very perfectly formed.
Yeah.
And I loved Bill. I love that it was at Asbury Park, so I could make the joke. Boss was at the boss's home.
Yeah.
But that was pretty cool. I love the pictures from that. That was pretty neat. And Terrificon as well. I think Terrificon.
Yeah.
I never think about Connecticut as being a big place for comic book conventions or for a lot of comic fans. I lived there for years, and that's kind of how I fell out of comics. But obviously, because I wasn't involved in that, I never, got to know about Terrificon.
And the level of guests they've had now is like increasing, to the point where they had people like Jonathan Hickman and some very big current names. My favorite panel that I sat in was Jeremy Adams, the DC writer who's came off of Flash, is currently on the Green Lantern titles, and Aquaman. And he's very funny, and I didn't know about his connection to Supernatural and to the Scooby-Doo franchise. So there was some really cool stories there. And I'm very proud of myself. I only did 2 panels. I was able to like stay on my feet. I
That's
was
awesome.
very proud of myself walking
And
around.
find all those things when you, I mean, your acquisitions there were pretty nice. They were some
Yeah.
pretty good ones.
And
So
I came in well under budget.
Nice.
Well, like $80 under budget from what I was planning. And still got some very nice stuff.
Yeah, your haul was good. I did
Yeah.
the pictures on your Instagram, and like you had you brought home some hotness.
Yeah. The big ticket item was New Gods #1.
oh yeah.
So now
pretty big ticket.
I have not just every Kirby Fourth World book, but every Fourth World book ever, apart from Jimmy Olsen #134. I have 133, but I don't have 134, which is pricey because it's the first Dark Side. Though it's really Forever People #1. That's tiny little cameo. He's a big presence to the other one. So I wish that's how things were treated. But
there's a shadow of an elbow on page 27.
basically.
Well, that was always the Wolverine's first appearance, which is really just 181. But there's also people say that he made a cameo in 180. There's always that debate, or what was the first appearance of Invincible or something like that was technically not an Invincible. It's just like that's like I guess that's just a nerd thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean Gambit and Spawn are two other characters where
right
what their first appearance is hotly debated.
Yeah.
But
that's cool.
Comic books in the summer.
Comic books. I'm glad that we have a correspondent who visited Terrificon, so now we know how cool it is.
Man, I know we labeled this like the dog or pup days of summer. Man, this summer went fast. I can't believe this is going to be our last show in August.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And we're literally a month away from fall, like calendar wise, and it'll be fall. I'm sure it'll be super hot, especially in Arkansas and North Carolina, until the end of October. But
I lucked out today. I didn't have the air conditioner on until 5 p.m.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just we had a nice cross breeze going. It
was very lucky when I got in my car today.
Oh, that sucks, man. I that's why because we're starting to talk about where we're going to spend retirement, and I can't deal with heat. I just can't. I need to change the seasons. And Steve's making his I hate winter face, so we know where that's going. But
I just want like mid-spring or mid-autumn, just all year round.
Yeah.
That would be my perfect right there. Just everything's between a low of maybe 60 at night and a high of 76 during the day all the time. I'll take that.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've spent enough time on our introduction. I think it's time we start talking about some comic books. Now, this is one thing I wanted to say. There's no news anymore. Doesn't it feel that way?
Really.
I think about the biggest news item this week was the announcement of the Archie film, and that Tom King is
writing it. The screenplay.
At least the first draft of it.
Yeah.
But there's nothing else, and it just seems like in past years, there was always news, and there just isn't anything happening.
No, nothing new. And I keep seeing the same news stories or variations of the same news stories about the DC, James Gunn's plans for things. It's yes, we already know Supergirl is coming.
Yeah.
We already know Lanterns is coming. We already know, all the other shows that have come up. There isn't anything new.
Yeah.
And yet we keep seeing so-and-so makes an appearance in Lanterns, or hey, Superman's out on digital. Let's get a better look at Supergirl, and it's just stills from the movie. So, but I mean, the pre-orders are out. Superman is on digital now, so we can watch that. Same thing with Thunderbolts is also on Disney Plus now.
Mhm.
So you can stream it if you didn't get to see it. And
Peacemaker later this week.
Peacemaker, which is going to be my wolf, is today. So I
Oh,
will.
it's
Yeah,
I
today.
saw it drop.
Oh,
I'm missing it right
I
now.
thought it was tomorrow, but
Oh, yeah, Thursday.
alas.
Well, it'll be. I mean, I'm sure you can stream it tomorrow, but it did go live at 9 o'clock today, so 9 o'clock
Okay.
Eastern.
All right, so
So
that's just a little bit of news, and
yeah.
apparently the numbers for Superman, they're expecting like a Barbie Oppenheimer level home video hit, which is
Yeah,
nice in 2025. Seeing that,
oh yeah. I mean, I'm gonna buy the Blu-ray, and I haven't bought a Blu-ray of anything for at least a year at this point.
Mhm.
I just digital, sure, but an actual disc, haven't bought it for a while.
I can't say that.
Yeah, I know. You get the Warner Archives. You get you find special deals all over the place whenever you're at like Five Below in the Dollar Tree. Like, how did you get this
Well,
movie?
that's the thing. At Dollar Tree, they've stopped with the home video
Oh, they did.
across the board. They haven't had home video at Five Below in ages.
Hmm.
So that stuff has to go somewhere. And then, other outlets like Big Lots would have,
Mm-hmm.
like Ollie's by me does not have home video at all.
Not
So,
anymore. Yeah, same
yeah.
here.
Yeah. So the unsold stuff has to go somewhere, so maybe there will
It's in
be
the
like,
same landfill as the Atari
yeah.
ET.
But I don't know if you've noticed this. Like, I was also at a mall, which is a rarity for me. And there are these pop-up toy stores now.
Mm-hmm.
That they're not selling like the current stuff. It's well, one store had Superman, but some of it is like last year's toys or the year before. Not necessarily heavily discounted, but with the absence of toy stores, um, at least in the United States, it's nice to see stuff like that. So I'm wondering if maybe there will be like a video, component like that somewhere.
I mean, it could be. I mean,
Could be, yeah.
over the past decade, we've seen more record shops pop up. So, it's possible that we might see dedicated video stores pop up too.
Yeah. And we've
But I
seen
mean, if you
record
go to
stores
a
pop up and
used,
become successful.
yeah, it becomes and with staying power. I mean, you do have like the secondhand stores, like the McKay's, the Second and Charles, where you
I
can
don't have
get.
those by me. They don't
Huh?
exist. Those stores
Wow.
don't exist by me.
Oh, it's too bad.
Yeah, we don't have those down here either. We do have an Ollie's, but it's kind of the same thing. Like, I look at the things that people pick up from Ollie's and stuff like that. I'm like, we don't get that stuff here.
Yeah.
Yeah. We tend to get a lot of comics, but lately the stock has been pretty poor. So out of Ollie's,
It's
Yeah.
very uneven. I mean,
Yeah.
when I was up in New York State once, and the Ollies I saw there, I could live there.
Yeah.
And because it was like, I don't think they turned around too much graphic novel inventory, so there were like you could get like trades of every issue of Bendis's New Avengers and Avengers. I mean, it was that like concentrated. And like Fables, you could get like almost all
Fable.
Yeah,
All of their not the omnibus Fables, but like the
standard trades. Yeah,
the standard traits, but also they used to have a lot of the hardcover, like the large hardcovers that would take like maybe 3 or 4 traits together,
like the Walking Dead the compendiums as well. Yeah, used to see that, but oh well.
Yeah,
It's a changing world.
But I'll get mine, and also thanks to Bill reminding me that there are 3D Blu-ray players that still exist out in the wild somewhere. I might get one again.
Yeah. What was the situation? It was one of one of the video game players doesn't.
Yeah, so PS back in the day, the PS3 was the #1 selling Blu-ray player on the planet, but also in this country. So that's how I was able to convince my husband to get us a PS3 back in the day. And then Xbox One came out, and we ended up getting an Xbox One, and they upgraded both the PS3, the Xbox One, and when it came out, the PS4, with the ability to play 3D Blu-ray. Now, I've had a 3D TV since, they were still making them. So I was able to use it to watch a lot of 3D Blu-ray. So I have a ton of 3D movies. And I used to just, especially Dread. I love Dread, one of my favorite comic book movies, one of my favorite movies of all time, period. But I would throw that on and watch the 3D version of it because it's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous movie. And I found out the last time I tried it that Xbox and PlayStation decided that they were going to not continue with the 3D capability for the Xbox Series S and X and the PlayStation 5. And since I gave my Xbox One to my brother, I don't have it anymore. So I need to actually get a dedicated 3D player at this point so I can actually enjoy my 3D
They're not
movies.
expensive. It's not like when they first came out. When they first came out, they were like $900 or something.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
And apparently they do have some that do 2D to 3D conversions. So like you can actually, if you have a 3D TV, you can watch 2D movies with some AI 3D conversion. I don't know how good that is, but
It's been a long time since I've done television shopping though. Are they still selling TVs that are is that still the big thing? 3D televisions? I mean, so how does that work if you have a television? I mean, just a regular television. I mean, how does the conversion on what you're talking about work?
You just don't get that. You just don't want it. I think they're trying to do something where it makes the depth look a little more three-dimensional, kind of like, I guess, the old Nintendo 3DS, but where you can watch without glasses. But really, like 3D TVs themselves, they've stopped making them altogether. And I still have mine. Mine was passive, so you didn't have to get special glasses. You could just get standard 3D glasses. You could steal them from the local AMC whenever you went to go see a 3D movie. But they just don't make them anymore.
But
and
there are certain movies though that you like those glasses won't work, and you have to get like the standard. I have Friday the 13th 3 in 3D, and the glasses will not work. But if you use like the cheapo little glasses with the
red blues
lens, the thing works perfectly.
Actually, I do have a copy of
I don't know why
Coraline. Yeah, I've got an older copy of Coraline that came with the blue and red 3D glasses, and that actually works relatively okay. And that was back before I had a 3D TV, so you're able to kind of do that as well. But for the clearest picture, you would have a dedicated 3D Blu-ray and a dedicated 3D TV, and it would look pretty.
All right, folks, I apologize if you're watching. We've talked about farms. We've talked about 3D TV. We've talked about heat. It's time to talk comics. So I will get this started because both of my books are Big Two books. We're going to have you guys take care of Indie World. I'm going with the mainstream. But this first one is a mainstream book. I have to say this book is no longer in perfect condition because there are tear stains. 2 of the pages. Oh boy. Our friend Brian Newberry told us, hey, this is amazing. This was just sitting around. Titans as a book right now, it's okay. It's not bad, but it's, certainly not top of the stack. So it didn't really register what's going on here. So this is Titans Annual 1. It's a Donna Troy, centric issue. It's written and drawn by Phil Jimenez. And oh boy, I don't know where to start. Steve read this too, but in terms of a book that's going to just pull your heartstrings and that clasp is going to be straight on hard for 38 pages. Man, oh man, did this do that. So one thing I have to say is I think Phil Jimenez, who again is a queer comic creator, one thing that's followed him around is that he's been a George Perez clone. Whether that's a valid tag, certainly at the beginning of his career. His drawing was very reminiscent of George. But he has evolved his style, and in just from an artistic standpoint, I don't know how well you can see from this. And Steve, my apologies for not getting images to you, but um, Phil is also inking himself through this, and it's a bit more. It's a bit more unique. And like, of course, there are Perezisms in here, but there's almost more of his own style emerging in this. And that was one thing I really enjoyed seeing. But the superstar of this book is the story. And if you followed Donna Troy as Wonder Girl through the New Teen Titans, this is a character that, with the retcons that have affected her sister, Wonder Woman, she's dealt a lot of blows in terms of continuity. And with DC's All In initiative, we are seeing finally seeing where some of the things drop. We're seeing that in the very good Mark Wade written the new history of the DC universe. And with this particular issue, we do get some of those loose strands tied up. So what happens in this issue? Donna is in New York City. She hasn't been there for a while. She spent a lot of time there because that was where Titan's Tower was. That's where her social life was for many years. But she's back, and she's there to meet her birth father. Now, what had happened was, when she was born, her parents split up, and the father left his mother while she was an infant. And then through other circumstances, Donna was orphaned and taken in by Wonder Woman and raised on Themyscira. There's some very charming, some of the only like out and out moments of humor come from Donna growing up in Themyscira and mocking Hippolyta, who is her mother, who's her adopted mother. And we really get a very nice glimpse into the sisterhood between Donna and Diana through the story. But we also have her as she's going through New York and going on this meeting to meet her birth father. She recounts her history with the Titans. And these are some very, I feel like, new perspectives about what it was like, initially meeting the team. And when she says, everybody talks about that the first time that they gathered with a supervillain, that was when they formed, but it was the next weekend when they had a sleepover at Wayne Manor was when they became a family. Really nice moments between Dick and Donna, two characters who deeply love one another but are not in love with one another. They actually are each other's first kiss, as we describe in this. There's some points in here I'm gonna try not to spoil, but it's gonna be hard, so just bear with that. But as she's going through recounting her time uh, with the Titans and where she ends up, again, one thing in Donna's past was that she was married. She was married to a man named Terry Long. They had a son named Robert, and Terry and Robert, after Donna had divorced Terry, were both killed in a car accident. And throughout the issue, there are these images of Robert, her son, that died at a very young age. And Donna almost never talks about him. And some of it, I think, is some of the creators, they're like, well, what do you do with that? This is a character who's supposed to be 23 and, she's, or he has a son that's gone through a tragic event. So I have to spoil an element of this because it's hard to talk about this story, but I'm going to do my best. Donna finds out her father is no longer alive, but what happened to him, I think, would have a lot of resonance with a lot of members of our audience as part of the gay community. And we learn about his life and we learn about his social situation. And it is something that is like, I mean, like I could hear my heart, like the heartbeat increasing as I was reading this because it was so emotional. A lot of his social um, activities were tied to um, a a fire station in New York City where he worked. She gets to meet the other members of the fire squad that he worked with. That leads to a very charming situation at the end, which Donna is due for that, I think. Uh, and the last page where you see who Robert, who has been an image throughout the issue, is embracing, you have to have no heart to not be affected by that. This is really, it's the best comic of the year as far as I'm concerned right now, and it would have to be something truly dynamic to beat this. If you love the Titans, you have to read this. You have to read this. Uh, so Steve, what did you think of it? Well, I
Oh, it's
think,
terrible,
yeah,
terrible. No, I loved every second of it. I mean, again, you know, kudos to Brian Newberry. He did not
spoil it.
say anything. He did not
Yeah,
spoil it. So I went in cold, just knowing that. Well, you know, my friends love it, so you know, I'm gonna go in and hopefully I'll love it too because I have not been keeping up with Titans.
yeah.
You know, I have a stack of unread ones, but I haven't really been following them so much. I did know that there was you know, relatively new team, which is kind of like the old team, the new Teen Titans team have kind of come back. Um, but this Donna Troy story is probably the best Donna Troy story I've read, if not ever. I would say in a very long
Yeah.
time,
I
because
mean, you had these amazing stories like in the original Titans run, who
yeah.
was Don Troy, which is
Oh yeah,
spectacular.
who's Donna Troy? So,
Um, but it doesn't have the wallop that this thing did.
no, and I think a lot of the, because I mean, you mentioned it, like creators just haven't really known what to do with her,
Mhm.
and I think that that's been a huge disservice to the character over the years. Obviously, because they keep rewriting her history, so she's had so many retcons over the years, just on who she is, what her origin is, how she got her powers, whether she had powers, whether she's actually the sister of Diana or adopted sister or any relation or
Yeah,
created from mud. There was
yeah,
one where she was like basically a voodoo doll that was created by, you know, to kill Wonder Woman. Like there's so many things that have happened to this character over the years. So many different identities that she's had. And you know, I think probably one of the few times where they did go back and they mentioned Terry and her son was during Blackest Night, where of course
mhm,
they came back as, you know, the living dead essentially, and I think most of that was like dream sequence, but it was also just a really horrific moment for
mhm.
her. And then nothing, because after that, you know, you had New 52 that was happening pretty soon after that, and she disappeared for many years until she came back and was completely different. So I think that this just it brought the character back to I think a state where most fans of hers like to see. You know, she's a
Yeah,
complete person. She understands who she is. You know, the stories of them when they were kids, especially in the Batcave, I just love that whole sequence. And
yep.
just, you know, getting all of their personalities as teenagers that of course continued over, you know, however many years that they've been together. But it was just so well done.
Yeah, it was
And I
so well
loved
done,
every minute
and
of it.
sometimes it's the outsider that says the most appropriate things.
Yeah.
When she tells Alfred, "I imagine you're a great father,"
Yeah.
you know.
I had a
Oh,
tear in my eye with that. I'm like,
yeah,
because his reaction, the way Jimenez drew his reaction, was like, "Holy shit! Yes, he is.
yeah,
He's Batman's dad
and
and has
and
been
that
Batman's dad."
Donna's brave enough to go to the side and talk to Bruce about, you have to let him have friends,
Yeah,
you know. that this is important, and that the implication was Bruce trusted that group of friends enough that eventually his surveillance went by the wayside.
Right.
And I especially like the return, because I really like Terry Long. It was one of the few times in comics where you had a May-December romance, because Terry was considerably older, that seemed organic and truthful.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's always gotten, like, I think he's gotten short shrift over time. Because that wedding issue is beautiful. The New Teen Titans number 50 is absolutely beautiful. And there's even like a beautiful Bruce and Dick moment in there, if you ever read it. But it feels like there's something very restorative to Donna. It seems like okay, you have this as a template. This is where you can go from.
Mm-hmm.
All the chaos of the past. We've worked it all out, and this is now your origin story, and you can move forward. And as a character that is so, she has a fraction of Wonder Woman's powers bequeathed to her, and she's even that makes her one of the most powerful people on Earth. Man, this was so good. So good.
Yeah. I mean, highly recommend it. Even if you don't read the current Titans book, even if you haven't read a Titans book in years, this standalone issue just really
it's a nice primer for that, and hopefully that would be something that people do investigate from this point on.
Exactly.
Really.
And even if you don't, if you're just a Don Troy fan, you should be reading this.
And just in terms of again, I'm trying so hard not to spoil this. I already said he's passed away, damn it. But there's something that I think there are elements to his story that I think a lot of gay men will understand and appreciate. And isn't necessarily judgmental about his actions with that. It's just so good. God, it's so good. And it's like I said, it's an emotional wallop. It was, bam. But one I think you need every so often. You need a comic book that gives you 2 tear-stained pages.
Yeah.
You really,
Well, and the fact that it's also a DC comic and it's dealing with, superhero characters that have been around for 40 plus 50 years.
Donna
60.
Donna's a couple years older than me.
Yeah.
A few years older than me.
Yeah. So about 60 years for that. So it's, it's definitely, good to see that writers for the big two and characters from the big two can still really pack an emotional punch.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Caleb, do you have this, or is this on your radar? Or
yeah, it's on my radar. So I'll be, I have not read it yet. I don't know if it's hit the DC app yet. I have not.
Probably like in 2 months.
Yeah. So as soon as it's on there, and it may already be on there. Sometimes they do them early. So I'll check it out then. I'm not reading Titans. I've never been a big Titans. That's never been something super in my wheelhouse, even though it's it's connection to George Perez.
How is that with George Perez? I don't understand that.
And I've looked at it, right? I love the art and stuff like that. I've just never. That is a blind spot for me where I have not read that stuff.
You gotta fix that. It's all on the app.
Oh yeah, no, I will at some point. I've got to sit down and read it.
And honestly, those are some of the few '80s comics that are timeless enough that you don't get that, like, oh my God, here's another moment of exposition, you don't get that with the New Teen Titans at all.
No, it's something I definitely want to sit down and read, the old stuff too. And I know how much, I love Phil Jimenez, and Phil is an acolyte of George Perez, and especially, Phil absolutely loves these characters and loves Donna Troy. That's his girl. So I knew it was in good hands. It's just never been something I've really, really gravitated to, which is, it is strange because I love the creators. I'm a huge Young Avengers fan. So I'm not a person that's like, I'm not, I don't not care for the sidekick superheroes. I mean, that's not the reason why. I just never read it, and I need to. It's always been something that's on the list, and I'll get around to it someday.
but again, just going back to something I said, it feels like there is a slightly different Jimenez style now. After Amazon's and now this, it just he's better than ever. I mean, and just Donna's smiling. Oh, I could fall in love with you. You know that?
I do want to say real quick, we did have a comment a little bit earlier off of YouTube. Gurkham Yilmaz, happy streaming, my favorite part of Thursday evenings. Thank you. Thank you very much for your kind words. But yeah, and again, I'll second everything that Bill said on this one. So.
Okay, so I'm going to go over to the other side of the street for the big two for my other book. And the book I'm talking about this time, this has been out since July. The issue 2 is already out. We were supposed to talk about this on the last show. So sorry, but here we go with the start of this. The new series of Captain America, written by Chip Zdarsky, with art by Valerie Sheedy and Frank Martin. It's what? Look at that.
That's a good creative team.
Yeah, issue number 1, legacy numbering 772.
Mm-hmm.
And do you know Spider-Man's the legacy number is like he's really close to 1,000?
Oh, really? At this point?
Yeah,
wow.
yeah. Remember, there have been various times where Amazing was 3 times a month.
True.
Yeah, so 3 or 4 times a month. So yeah, we're gonna get a Spider-Man 1000 fairly soon. But aside from that, it's time to talk about Steve Rogers. So where in time is this book? Well, we go back to just after Steve has been thawed from that block of ice and is reintegrated into the modern world by the Avengers. Now, the world that he is reintegrated into is the Gulf War, it's the Iraq War, which I think gives everything that follows a bit of a different flavor that we can now pinpoint, at least in the current Marvel continuity, when Captain America came back from the 1940s into our lives. So we see him here, and he's a little bored in Avengers Mansion. And he's, getting used to being a man out of time. There is a dude on a motorcycle causing havoc throughout New York City. And it turns out that this guy is a veteran who snapped. He's not a bad guy, but he needs help. And Cap goes through the city, one man, almost, just on a motorcycle, catching up to him. And instead of beating the hell out of him right out of the gate, he talks to him. And it's such a good moment. Yeah, Steve, this is very early on in that. This is where we see him reveal himself to somebody that, as you can see, that they stole this woman's motorcycle. Steve, can you go to the next graphic on this, please? Yeah, and there he is in action. I don't know what other images you have, but if we could go through them quickly, because a lot of them, there we go. We get the salute, and there's Iron Man in his earlier costume. Steve, we can go to the next one. Okay, so we're kind of catching up. So Steve decides he needs to reenlist in the U.S. Army in some capacity. That's where he feels at home, and that's where he thinks he can do a lot of good outside of being what is certain to be an illustrious career with the Avengers. So he gets pulled into a very special team, and look who's running it: Thunderbolt Ross. And the mission is to get reconnaissance on Dr. Doom. So again, this is also fairly early in Doom's career, and they're painting it, again, with what they have of Latveria. It has their fingers in things that are going on with Saddam Hussein in Iraq. That's the implication, at least in the few pages. We're also introduced to a new character, was his name, David Colton. And David is a young man, probably 16, 17 years old or so, desperate to enlist in the Army after the events of 9/11. He was raised by a very liberal mother who is not happy with his decisions. And he just won't take no for an answer. He's gone to various recruiting boards, and he finally gets in. And like Steve Rogers before him, he is not doing well at boot camp. He's a skinny guy. I don't know if he is going to be another super soldier down the road, but he is going to have some connection to Steve. Steve also gets in touch with Reed Richards. Now, in the old continuity, when they were both, they met, Ben Grimm and Reed met Steve in World War II. There's actual stories about that. But he talks to Reed because, again, his exposure so far has only been to the other members of the Avengers. Knows that he's a very smart guy, and he also knows that he has this connection with Victor Von Doom. So that was a really nice situation. But it also turns out that Reed Richards had a Captain America action figure that he's always kept with him. And man, that just put a smile to my face. So anyway, there's a new Howling Commandos that is being formed to go into these particular areas that Cap is going to lead. And the last image that we have is where they're headed. And just as Saddam Hussein's statue is being torn down. So I know some people were like kind of in arms with fake outrage with a Canadian writing Captain America right now. Grow up. But
I mean, I
I
see a lot of Canadians acting more American than a lot of Americans right now.
Yes.
So
I have to say, like, the only frustrating thing with Captain America is the ridiculous number of reboots that there have been.
Yeah.
And I like Straczynski. I like Nick Spencer, and I don't like Nick Spencer as a writer. I liked him on that book. There are writers that have a lot to say, and this is a very good vehicle for them. And Chip Zdarsky appears that he's going to be among their number. So, very good start, Captain America #1.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
All right, indie fellas. I'm taking my leave right now from.
I know. What are we going to do for the rest of the show without
it over to you?
Without a billboard to look forward to.
I'm going to be here. I'm listening. You got to sell me on some of this stuff. But, I got the big two out of the way.
Yeah.
Out. There you go. Said,
I'll go since Steve is. I'll go since Steve is wrangling the farm animals. So yeah, I've got a couple books. I'll start with the one I was going to talk about on our Fantastic Four episode that I didn't get a chance to, and that is none other than the new book by Mike Curato called Gasians. And this is published by who was it by? I had it open to the page. Algonquin Books of Chapel Hill this year. So it's a new book by him. So if you're not familiar with Mike Curato, that is a few years ago he wrote a really great graphic novel called Flamer. I've actually got it. I just realized I didn't even plan this, but I've got it up on my shelf, just kind of right above me. Fantastic book, kind of a coming of age story, but really great work. But Mike is Mike is an Asian American man, so he wanted to kind of talk about some of the experiences coming out as a queer Asian American man. So he wrote this book about these four friends and the kind of dynamics about it, and it's really a story about like found family. Right. And so the book starts off and introduces you to a character named AJ. Now, AJ is, I mean, he's new meat, right? Like he's from New York, but he moves over to the Pacific Northwest, the Seattle area, and he's moving away from his family. The whole idea is I can get away from everybody. This is in the mid 2000s. I can go start a new life in a new city away from everybody, and I can come out. And so he's going to start just fresh. And he's he's new to everything, right? Like he's new to this city. He gets there, he doesn't have any, he doesn't really have a job lined up. He doesn't really have a friend group. He's got no experience with gay culture. He doesn't know, he doesn't, not that there is a way to be gay. I want to make that very clear, but he doesn't know what to do. All he really knows are gay stereotypes. And straight up, when I was reading that, I was like, hey, I've been there. Like I recognize that. Like I grew up in the rural South. I didn't really know any gay people. I just kind of knew I probably was one. And I get to I go to the city and I get around other people and I'm like, I need to fit into gay culture. I'm gay. I have to act like what I think gay is. And so he's trying to navigate that. And, he goes to the bar and he's, trying to meet people. And he turns around and he accidentally bumps into somebody that he'll end up becoming friends with, somebody named Kay. And when he bumps into Kay and kind of spills his drink on Kay, what we find out is Kay at this time is a drag queen. Right at this point is kind of this well-known performer, is also Asian. We don't know from what part of the Asian. I think we eventually find out that Kay is Vietnamese, but doesn't really know who this person is. And she clocks him just from the minute. She's like, "Oh, you're as green as grass, kid. Like you need a friend. Like you need someone to show you the ropes. We don't really know, what to do. You don't know what to do with you right now. So, you know, come talk to me. Let's figure this out." And throughout, through Kay, AJ is introduced to Kay's little chosen family group of friends, which includes a couple of guys. One's name is John, and he's a bear. Also, all four of these folks are of Asian descent. Of one country of origin or another. John is a bear. Is very much into bear culture. Is a gamer, kind of a slacker. Was actually adopted by two I'd have to go check. Was adopted by non-Asian people, so was not necessarily raised in the same Asian culture as the rest, as even AJ was. So in a way, kind of there's a bond there. He's like, hey, I know I am something, and I know I have roots to some degree at a place, but I had a family who tried to connect me with that culture as much as they could, but they did the best they could. It was just kind of showing me they couldn't tell me. So he had to figure that out by himself. And you also meet kind of the fourth figure, which is a character named Steven, who, for lack of a better word, baby is a hoe. I mean, just that man loves a good, is the poster child for the one night stand, is unapologetic about it. And I say hoe with all the respect in the world. Like, I love it. Do what you do, baby. Go have fun. Is very single, is very mingle, is down to have whatever kind of carnal experiences that he can have, is not going to apologize for it, just wants to get his rocks off, have a good time, go to work, come home. In Steven's day job, Steven's a nurse, very smart guy. He's a caretaker, has to take care of of a wide variety of people, especially elderly people that he works with who may or may not have dementia. One of the real humanizing moments, and the one that really makes you fall in love with Steven, in his work, he meets an older Vietnamese man who who's got dementia and thinks Steven is somebody from his past, and Steven just is amazingly kind to this person, although this person also is having to share a room with a Caucasian Vietnamese vet who carries a lot of racial animosity and says a lot of terrible things, and has to just navigate that. So there's this really humanizing, just you fall in love with him and you realize that he's more than, just somebody who wants to go dance and go fuck and go dancing. Like there's so much more. He's just trying to figure out his life and figure out what he wants, and just enjoy these moments. And then of course you have Kay, who is is a well-known performer, who at the front of the story, and I'm going to spoil a little bit here, but it's kind of low hanging, and you kind of realize what's happening really very early on in the story. By the end of the story, Kay has come out as trans and says, this is who I am. This is my identity. The story and the kind of main character and the focal point is through AJ, though, and it's introducing him to the world, not only to gay culture, but also to gay Asian culture, which, in saying this, obviously that's not my, that's not my identity. So I can't really speak too much to it, but, it's learning from, what that world looks like through a cartoonist and a comic artist who is of that world and that culture, and these characters that he's created to kind of interpret it and share it. So you learn about not only trying to become out as gay culture, but also um, navigating gay culture in a culture that really fetishizes a lot of Asian men. I mean, there's a lot of folks that don't see, that don't really like that it's a fantasy, right? Like they just kind of want to, if see what's up with that. They, there's some folks who only want to sleep with that person, and it's more of a fetishization of their identity. How do they navigate that? What do they want? With Stephen and John, you learn that, John is, he's a gamer, and he's better online. He feels more comfortable online and navigating that, and developing relationships with his fellow gamers on the online world than really he does in the, in regular world. And his roommate is Steven, and he's in love with Steven, man. It's that thing. It's like you're living with the person that you just, that is what you want, but you can't have, and you're friends with that person, and you're afraid if it moves to the next level, it'll ruin everything, and that guy doesn't even really want you, and it's a whole thing. So it really walks you through this world as they navigate, trying to just become this little group of people. And they call themselves, and I love this, because they get together and they watch all of these movies and stuff, so they call themselves the Boy Luck Club instead of the Joy Luck Club, right? So it's really funny. It's got these wonderful moments where you just laugh out loud. It is not fun. The book is not afraid to poke fun at itself. I like when we're talking and we can admit that there are some aspects of gay culture that are just absurd and silly, and they're wonderful at the same time, right? Like, it's not wrong to be absurd and silly, but there's just things that we do that are just over the top, and that they dive into that. But it also shows you that while these things are happening, these people are dealing with very real things. At one point in time, Kay is assaulted, and they have to figure out where they have let each other down, and how that happened, and why they weren't there for each other, and build back the relationship that they had, and to make it something better, and just really recommit to being a support system as well. Highly recommend this. It's a fun read. Mike Corrado does an amazing job about taking these characters and just giving them a profile, giving them an individual, unique voice, bouncing back. It feels like these characters came in here fully formed. It doesn't feel like, sometimes we get books and you're just like, there was a concept there, but sometimes they feel like they have the same voice because they're wanting enough time spent with them. These characters are all fully fleshed out. They're very different people. They have a very different voice. They have very different motivations and things like that. And I just feel like he wrote a profile for them that was a mile long before he ever really started fleshing out the narrative, um, and just did a really amazing job. For they talk about the music scene in Seattle too, so they get into a bunch of indie music and stuff like that from the mid 2000s. There's a couple of references in here. I'll have to go back and fish them out for you, Bill, but there's some that I think you'd get a kick out of, where we're dropping these kind of what the folks are listening to, and just different alt rock music and stuff like that. So if you get a chance, go check this book out. The artwork is amazing. The story's fun. And Steve was going through the pictures here for a second. He had a picture of Mike Corrado posing with his book, and Mike ain't bad to look at either. So that's a very handsome man, making comics, doing the thing, and just overall making me very happy with this reading experience. Can't wait to see what comes next.
Nice.
So the book, as Steve is flipping through this, the book is told really throughout. It's not this big vibrant colors. A lot of it is kind of monochrome, but when he uses color, he uses them very, very well. It kind of just really packs an emotion. Lots of pinks, lots of reds. There is one point in the story I mentioned Kay was attacked. These are all Asian Americans, but they're also dealing with the complex identity of some people think that those two things can't be together. The person that assaults Kay has an American flag, an eagle, and as a tattoo. And I'm reading that and I'm thinking, wow, I'm a white dude with an American flag on my arm, and I'm fairly, when I walk down the street, I'm wearing metal T-shirts and stuff, and but I am who I am, and it makes me really sad that people out there kind of take that and have made it something just so that other people might be afraid of, that you could even associate that symbol with hate. And it made me kind of feel a second. I was like, maybe I should start wearing long sleeves. I don't want people to think that I'm like that. But at the same token, I think there's also a form of reclamation of that, where people who lead towards more liberal ideology, gay folks, people who have a shared identity of non-Caucasian, we're also American. We have every right to that flag and every right to this history and every right to be patriotic. And in the words of James Baldwin, to paraphrase James Baldwin, to speak ill of this country and what it does wrong because we love this country. And I think it's very important for us to reclaim that and not let it just be taken by folks who are basically just fascists, for lack of any other, better qualifier. So, there's a lot of emotion packed into this book. So go check it out. I'd love for you guys to read it. Tell me what you think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I love Flamer. Flamer was such a great book, and that was his personal experience. As a young kid, I want to say he was sixth grade equivalent. He was about 11, which was interesting because that's when I realized, or at least admitted to myself, that I was also gay, and so it was very interesting to see someone who also had that experience or similar experience at his age. Now, of course, he had some more experiences at camp that I did not have, but I really felt that that understanding with the author. But then here again, this is taking another aspect of his identity, and although it's not autobiographical, you can kind of see that he's been working and living in this community and these communities for his whole life. So it's interesting to kind of see something like this. I'd love to pick it up. I did see it. My local indie bookstore does have a couple copies of it, so I'll be grabbing it when I can.
Awesome.
All right, Caleb, do you want to take your second, or maybe we should bounce over to Steve?
Let's bounce to Steve. I want to hear a book that Steve. We'll break it up a little bit.
Look at it. Steve is usually the guy that talks first, and we've already got the 3 books, and he hasn't talked yet.
Yeah. Well, I can. You know what? I can actually probably talk about my books together because they are kind of part of the same publishing initiative.
Okay.
Yeah, and so we'll just sort of smoosh them together, and I won't take too long because they are anthologies. Hint number 1, and they are also horror or sort of weird story kind of base. So, of course, hint number 2, and that must mean that I'm talking about Oni Press's EC Comics line, and this is the summer of these EC comics, so they have 2 new series. Well, actually, 3 new series. 2 that are brand new and 1 that is returning. So, Catacomb of Torment is one of their new series. I talked about their one of their other books, Blood Type, that also came out, that was based on a story from an issue of Epitaphs from the Abyss. But Catacomb of Torment is the replacement for Epitaphs from the Abyss. So this is the horror comic. And then Cruel Universe, which was one that they... Sorry, my dog's reverse sneezing. I know Caleb knows what that sounds like.
I do.
Beagles, I don't know. But anyway, and then Cruel Universe did have a volume that came out last year. It's excellent, really cool, weird science stories, sci-fi stories. And they liked it so much, it was so popular that they did come up with a second volume of it with all new stories. And the one thing that I do have to say about both of these is that they are not just featuring 3 stories by new authors and artists, so 3 brand new stories in each issue, but now they're including a 4th story that is a classic reprint from one of EC's multiple publications from the 50s, and it's actually pretty wonderful getting to see that in the context of these new stories and these new presentations. So I do have some pictures from this, and I'll pull up Catacomb of Torment so you can actually see some of the images from it. There we go. So in Catacomb of Torment, You have, again, a couple stories here. You've got a story by Jarner Cootie and Patrick Piazzaluga, um, that is kind of interesting. It's called "What's the Deal with Voodoo?" You also have Marguerite Bennett and Dan McDade doing a story on Kitana Roo. Matt Kint and David Lapham doing Garden Variety, which is part of the what you see on screen now if you are watching. And this one I think is probably one of the more interesting ones. Matt Kint has created this chef who's extremely popular and always is really, mushroom forward. It's all about fungus for him. And you see him feeding people in this banquet, and it's disgusting. There's a lot of close-ups. I think they did such a great job in making his food look so unappetizing by seeing the people eat it. Now, of course, this character ends up committing some pretty disgusting acts in order to get his latest mushrooms, which of course does not go well, as per usual for horror comics. Whenever you have a story that starts off in a particular interesting way, somebody's at the top of their game, usually they're going to end up dead in a very disgusting way by the end. You have one of the first stories on there, which is the "What's the Deal with Voodoo?" about a comedian who's just horribly offensive on purpose. And he performs at a university, and a couple of these university students are not having it. They're basically calling him out for being, racist and misogynist and all this. And unfortunately, one of them, and you can kind of see it on this page, shoves him, and it ends up killing him. Which, of course, right afterwards they try to cover it up. So even well-intentioned people who are very angrily trying to make their opinions known can also be terrible people. And then, of course, we have Quintana Roo is another one by Marguerite Bennett. But then we have the classic story. And the classic story is from William Gaines and Al Feldstein, who wrote a lot of the horror and crime comics from EC back in the day. And then the artist by Graham Inges.
I
and it was
just
called
I just have a question.
Sure.
Did Gaines actually write?
He
I thought
did.
okay,
He did.
wasn't really aware of that.
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
He edited, obviously, but he also
Yeah,
did write and
understood.
do story outlines. And,
Okay.
he and
I
Al
didn't know
apparently
that.
did quite a bit together.
All right.
There's
Have to
these are of course anthology comics, and they've always been anthology comics. So usually you have 4 or 5 pages written by a variety of contributors. And I think it's interesting that they're starting with stories that were contributed by William Gaines. Working with Al Feldstein, of course. But it's really cool that they are bringing this back. And one of the things that I found really interesting is that they are doing color. I forget what they call it. It's not color correction, but like color restoration.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the original comics, if they were in color, it's a very faded 4-color process. There's a lot of artifacts on the remaining copies if you can find them, and it's not exactly like they had a lot of pristine copies lying around or the original plates. They just don't have those. But I think they did a beautiful job, and you can tell right away the way that these stories were written, presented, the dialogue, the sequential art, very different, very distinct, and very 1950s.
Yeah.
A lot of words on the page. Some very interesting poses and facial expressions, but so much is there on the page. It's a very unique aesthetic. And this story, of course, is pretty cool too. It's a woman comes in to help out in an orphanage, and the man who runs it is just an awful human being. Like, Child Protective Services has nothing to do with anything that goes on at this place, where the children are starved to death. They never get any heat. They barely have any clothes. It's just garbage. And this woman feels so terrible for them that she tries her best, with what little money she has and with what little she's being paid, to at least try to make them happy, until the children come to their favorite holiday, which is Halloween. And they find their jack-o'-lantern with the help, unwilling help, of the head of the orphanage. So, wonderful and great, and filled with irony and disgust. So that's the Catacomb of Torment, which again, horror magazine. The other one is Cruel Universe, and Cruel Universe. Let's see if I can bring that one up. Essentially, is more related to sci-fi stories. So they're not all necessarily, horror tales, but most of them do have a horror twist. So the artwork again is gorgeous. The covers on this are just so well done. I mean, just beautiful. And sometimes they have, images from stories that are told inside those issues, and other times they're just sort of artist interpretation. But absolutely gorgeous artwork. In this book, we had a couple stories. The first one was by Jay Holtham, with art by David Rubin. Which was a story about aliens coming to Earth and disguising themselves as a human so that they can, get to the ground and communicate more easily with people if they had somebody who looked like them. And things go horribly wrong. People are alternately either afraid or angry and, want to arrest or hurt him. And after they teleport him back onto the ship, they find out that he had disguised himself as a black man. And, the reactions of people to this black man who is speaking strangely and acting, strangely was clearly a little too much. So they go off on their merry way and take their cures for cancer and all sorts of diseases and world peace and all that stuff with them. Secondly, we have another story by Ann Nocenti and Kano, and that's actually what these panels are from. And it's these two podcasters who are also being sponsored by the inventors of a dolphin translator. And so with their dog, they go out to the ocean to sort of program this translator, and they discover that hey, there's these dolphins are making these really cool noises, and we can kind of figure out, because the dog is reacting to it, that hey, maybe we can really make this work. And so they decide, after a horrible situation where a dolphin is murdered, and they copy that sound as part of their learning process. They end up taking it to a water park and playing it for a bunch of dolphins, who then decide to go and kill them. And the translation, of course, finds that the dolphins have been thinking that humans are garbage this whole time, and this is a way of their taking revenge. So again, try to think twice about what you ask for when you're trying to understand what animals are saying to you. And then, of course, Greg Pak and Charlie Adlard have another great story where they it takes place on a vessel flown by an extremely wealthy person who, along with a bunch of other very wealthy people, have escaped Earth and this plague that's happening on Earth. And they do not try to hide the fact that they are parodying Elon Musk. 100%. The artwork, Adlard's artwork it makes him look exactly like Elon Musk. And although he's never named, it's very clear. And he gets his just desserts, as do all the other wealthy billionaires who are trying to escape Earth, as is the case in a lot of these sci-fi twists. And then finally, we do have another reprint from 1953. This one is from Weird Fantasy, number 22. It's another William Gaines and Al Feldstein story with art by Bernard Kriegstein. And the color restoration was done by Iñaki Azpiazu, who did a pretty good job given the original artwork. And it's called Derelict Ship, and it concerns two pilots that are out patrolling space, and they come across this derelict freighter, and going in, they find a whole bunch of desiccated corpses, and they're like, well, what happened? So they read the log, and it turns out that these pilots had gone to this prison planet by mistake that was where all the fascists had been stashed. Basically the peaceful, peace-loving Earth, where everything's sort of, post-scarcity and great, very, Star Trek future, these fascists are like, okay, now we've got a ship. We're going to find our way back to Earth. We're going to infiltrate society, and we're going to make it our type of place. And they're telling the pilot this, and he decides that what he's going to do is disable the ship, and so they will all die in space rather than go back to Earth and have the people experience fascists who have hatred in their hearts and don't like diversity and want to really separate people ideologically and racially and kill anybody who doesn't agree with them and manipulate free speech and all of that in order to take away freedoms. So thankfully all of them die, which is a good way of ending that story. But I love this kind of stuff. I think anthologies are a great way to get some really good stories out there very quickly in short format. All these artists and writers have this chance to collaborate in these short bites. And it's really great, the mix of people that they have working on all of these EC comics, these EC comic revivals.
And from what you've said here, it's nice that they've stuck with that, with the formula of the O. Henry twist.
Oh, yeah.
The end. Yeah, you kind of can't have an EC comic without that.
Absolutely not. And even some that are less horror based, like the Cruel Universe ones, they're not all horror stories. Some of them are,
Well,
I would
EC
say less
horror.
Yeah, I mean, EC had a lot of weird fantasy, weird sci-fi, crime stories that didn't all end in tragedy, but a lot of them did have, like you said, the O. Henry twist that puts the story in perspective, and especially when it's very socially, a very large social commentary or political commentary. A lot of times they don't pull punches, and they also don't hide it in that much metaphor. So it's a way for the writers to really stick their necks out and be very clear on their intention in a short format, and I love it. So the EC books are really great. So check out Catacomb of Torment and Volume 2 of Cruel Universe.
They've done a really good job bringing in just the visuals of EC too. Just kind of remapping that for a modern audience. I mean,
definitely. Even down to the horror hosts, like they have their own horror hosts for each book. So Epitaph's had the Gravedigger. Catacomb of Torment has oh gosh, what is her name? She had it's the Tormentor, who's a very interesting lady. But yeah,
has there been any press about how these are going to be collected?
So what they've been doing, they have been collecting them, which is great. So they're collected in volumes. For the one, most of the side ones besides Epitaphs from the Abyss are 4 to 6 issues. So those are being collected in full hardcover at first, and then Epitaphs from the Abyss, I believe, is in multiple volumes in the collections. So, I think that's probably the best way. If you missed all the single issues, which I'm sure they're out and still available, it's a great way to do it so you can get all your stories at once.
Okay, that's good to hear. I mean, the only other time I think that there was like a blatant EC revival was when the property was with Paper Cuts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that was not... Yeah.
Well, it all depends on who you get, and these guys, their EC's pulling in, or Oni is pulling in all these heavy hitters.
Yeah,
you've got a Matt Kint, you've got an Ann Nocenti writing in just these 2 issues.
Yeah.
I
think every decent writer has a 6 to 8 page EC story in them.
Oh yeah. I think Jeff Lemire had a story at one point. We've had just a bunch of there's just been a bunch of people who've contributed to these, so I highly recommend picking up one or the other if you're into that kind of thing.
Okay, nice.
Well, you just, as a publisher, you can't be afraid of and Paper Cuts did this to a degree. They tried to separate themselves from what the classic feel of EC. I mean, yeah, you want to make it readable and digestible by a modern audience, but don't balk. It's kind of like comic book movies that are like afraid to be a comic movie, right? Don't
Yeah.
about what makes EC. Lean into it. Like lean into that story. Lean into the horror aspect of it. Lean into the fact that it's supposed to feel like a 1950s sci-fi element, right? Like like embrace that and celebrate it. So
Yeah. And they're not afraid to have the same cheesy humor too.
yeah.
So like you have the horror hosts and the horror books that are just, throwing out puns and being ridiculous. But then also even in some of the stories too, there's an element of humor
Yeah.
in there with the irony where they tongue in cheek, very black humor, but at the same time it's like,
Yeah.
I see what you're doing, I know what you're doing, and I appreciate what you're doing.
Well, Steve, you have made me just really, really want to read some more horror, and you've kind of sold me on the idea of horror. So I think I'm going to talk about a horror book and just keep carrying this theme forward.
Oh yeah.
And I will. So I'm going to go a little bit of a different direction, though. But honestly, some kind of I think some similar themes there. A few years ago, our friend Vince Bonavilla over at 11 O'Clock Comics introduced me to a manga artist, and it's this individual named Shintaro Kago. Does some really amazing body horror stuff, right? And so a lot of the work that Shintaro Kago does, if you go and find him on social media, it's a lot of younger people, a lot of younger girls, especially like the Japanese schoolgirl look, but it's them becoming like literally unraveling. Like it looks like some images are they're unspooling and you can see all of the anatomy on the inside. There's some where it looks like they're being ran through like one of those Play-Doh presses and just spreading out. And he's got an amazing way of taking that and just really finding these neat ways to illustrate it where it's absolutely body horror, but it also has a really kind of strange, um, uh, almost novelty feel to it, like to some degree. It's almost, like, a person exploding into confetti to some degree. And so I really kind of learned to love what he was doing. And I've followed Shintaro throughout the years and was very excited that our friends over at Fantagraphics decided to put together an anthology and print it. And it's called Brain Damage by Shintaro Kago. Now, this is a collection of, I believe, 4 different stories that aren't really connected, but one is called the Labyrinth Quartet, the second one is the Curse Room, the third one is Family Portrait, and the fourth is Blood Harvest. And each of these are relatively short stories. Again, they're not necessarily related except by theme and the fact that they are supposed to be horror, and they are about about identity and about what makes who these people are, and kind of weird twists to things told through his very twisted, I don't know how else to say it, twisted sense of storytelling. And
I just have to say right off the bat, Caleb, that is a cover I am never going to forget.
Yeah, it is.
That is a stunning cover.
It's you should go check out his social media page and just see some of the stuff they've done, especially the color work. It's amazing. His sense of anatomy, his sense of draftsmanship, like he really is, he can produce these realistic, drafts of people, and then throws the mechanics and just the world and stuff inside them and unravels them and breaks them apart. And he has a good understanding of literal anatomy and what it would look like if you took all their skin off, and you just showed somebody who is a nervous system, so to speak, right? And you get some of that, but what he does in this book is a little bit different than what I've seen him done before. He almost gets into more traditional kind of just slasher body horror, which I've seen him do a little bit, but this is a degree that I have not seen him work in before. So the first story opens up, and this these young women are all in kind of a room together, and they all look alike. They all have very similar features to some degree, but then they start realizing, oh, well, one of them's taller than the other. Some of them have just, there's a little bit, something that's a little bit different, and they're stuck in these rooms, and they start to kind of explore it and try to figure out their way, around it. They all have different names, they have different backgrounds, they remember each other, not each other, but they remember where they came from. So they're not the same people. So they start to question, are we clones? Like, what's happening here? And as they're exploring this kind of labyrinth, they walk into a room, and there's these 4 different squares that are holes, and so you can feasibly climb through and reach to another room, but they narrow. And so as they're looking around, they stumble upon one room, and it's all of these, again, young girls who look a lot like them, that are just slaughtered. I mean, they are just, somebody came in and just did a murder, like, went Jason Voorhees all over the place and just took these people out. And then there's pieces of them missing, and they're like, okay, this is not okay. We're freaking out. Somebody's in here murdering us. They all scatter, and one by one, this killer kind of picks them off. And I'm going to spoil this first story a little bit, but what you find out is the killer is also this young girl who looks exactly like them. And apparently, early on in this child's life, there was another girl that she went to school with that looked like these girls, that she had a crush on, fell in love with, that was unrequited. And in her head, she made up this whole story about how they should be together. So now she's going and she's kidnapping and finding all of these girls that look like her, murdering them, and posing them in these little squares to make a story. And she's narrating the heads and the torsos and the body parts, with these young girls, all because she had a crush. Of unrequited love, and it's that it's this obsession, it's this can't let go, and he deals with obsession a lot. There's the next story is kind of a zombie story, and what you find out is that in this world, that the dead come back to life, but except when they come back to life, it was kind of a traditional zombie story at first. They come up, they brains, man, they want to go murder and eat and kill, and they're all crazy, and they don't make any sense. So they start realizing some of these folks, when they come back, they're very docile and they retain their humanity, because they don't realize they're dead. So they set up this entire network, this entire warehouse, where when they find these folks, these people who are basically zombies but don't know it, they bring them back, and they kind of ease them into understanding that they're dead, and they just eventually go to sleep. And there's people who have made a profession about this and a living about it. But there's one kind of special case that comes in, and they're trying to get her to understand, and the hunger takes over. And really, what happens when the hunger takes over is they're just fully gone by that point. But something happens, and she eats her own arm, or chews her own arm, and all of a sudden, once she does that, she's okay again for a little bit. And they're like, "Wow, you snapped back into it. What is this?" Um, you know, uh, but these are still monstrous, dangerous people. And so this one worker becomes obsessed, and she's like, this is my chance to become like the top of my field. I'm going to find what's making this happen. I'm going to study her because she's still there. Yeah, she goes and she wants food, but she starts working with her, and she does something. She walks in, and the zombie has killed one of their coworkers, and she's like, but she's fine now. And so she's like, well, there's something about eating human flesh. It resets her. So she won't eat other meat. She won't eat pork or beef or anything like that yet, but she starts working with her. And so she feeds her a little bit of person with like 10% pork, and that, the ratio goes down and over. And eventually she works her down to, hey, like she's actually eating all pork, and you think everything is going to be fine, but it's not. And then what she's done is completely flipped the script, and she's basically made an entire generation of zombie foodies who are obsessed with the culinary art of cooking people. And it upsets the global dynamic of how this works. Shintaro Kago loves uncomfortable horror movies, right? He likes playing with dynamics. To some degree, he likes to make the reader uncomfortable. Um, there are some scenes in all of this, a lot, and our friends who have talked about this book pointed out as well, draws a lot of teenage girls and sexualizes them to some degree. So it's a little bit, it's meant to be uncomfortable, but he does so in a way, it's not like, depending on how you read this book, you might be offended by it, you might not. I think there's a lot of room to talk about it. He does show you that the sexualization of these people is a bad thing, though. Like, there's this one story where this young girl is, they live with her grandpa who's going senile, and every time he walks by, he grabs a handful of ass, right? And that's not okay. And she's freaking out. She's like, stop, he's an old pervert. And they're like, look, he's senile and whatever. But he's not a good person, right? And he makes it very clear that the fetishization, the sexualization of these kids is a bad thing. And yet all of Shintaro Kago's stories do this to some degree. So to some degree, I guess talking about himself, I don't know. I don't know to what level of cognitive understanding and self-reflection he's telling with this story, but there's an interesting dynamic being told there. But for me, the stories are, I mean, they're fun. There's always a really interesting twist that you really may not see coming. He's clever, but it really is the artwork. It really is the illustrations that he's drawing in these books. The way that the way that he shows you cities, the way that he shows you human anatomy. In one of the stories, pieces of folks are disappearing and they don't know why. And so you get, really amazing illustrations that have little carve outs, that are very misshapen and very round and stuff like that. And it almost has a 3-dimensional look to it. So it does a very good job with that. Um, he's one of my favorite manga artists. I love seeing what he can do. I love seeing the way that his brain works. It's almost surreal. There's a surrealist bent to it and the way that he depicts this, and has a really fantastic mastery of understanding the layout of a page and how to tell you these stories, and understands suspense in a really good way. And normally that's not been what I've gone to Shintaro Kago for. There's not really been a suspense element. It really has been like, you're going to get some really cool body horror and there's going to be a funky twist and there's going to make some uncomfortable moments, but it's not. But in this, he really wraps up the suspense into it. So he's growing as a storyteller. He's honing his craft. And I mean, man, you look at what he's doing with just a nib, like just small black lines on the page, the emotion that he can pull out of it, and the fear that he draws in these people's faces, how much he can make you just care about a character in a very short time, just by showing you who they are on the paper. His backgrounds are when he shows you like a car pile up, it just is pure carnage. Does a fantastic job with texture. I really adore what this guy does, and to some degree he makes me uncomfortable, and that's an interesting dynamic. It's an interesting place to be in as a reader. So your mileage may vary. Just want to be very clear about that. You might read this and you might read this and say, this is too much. I don't want to ever read this again. I don't like the work that's happening here. This is not the type of story I want to read. And that's totally fine. Like, there's no judgment there. But I think this was a fun exercise to go through, and I'm glad to add it to my little Shintaro Kago collection.
Okay, cool.
I like that concept with the that in the first story that you were talking about with the boxes, and her essentially setting up 3-dimensional comic strip. She's doing sequential art with body parts, which I'm wondering what Kago's sort of saying there about comic artists themselves. Is that, especially horror artists, this is what they're doing. They're taking body parts and shoving them into boxes.
Especially comic artists that are telling stories, maybe doing some self-reflection and telling stories about their own lives and things, and objectifying themselves and kind of the love of what they look like and what they remember and stuff. And then he also shows you bodies exploded in a car,
which is always nice. I mean,
you can get this from Fantagraphics. You can get it offline. You can get it most places. It's a fun read. It was. How much were you? $29.99 for the hardcover collection that I've got.
That's not bad. That is not bad for Fantagraphics of that quality.
And it's got 187 readable pages. So, I think my favorite story was the last one that I really didn't talk about, though. It's got ghost cars. Yeah, cars, murdery ghost cars.
I mean, we all love Christine, so I think that'll be.
Do we?
The book. The book was good.
Do we?
So all but one, every person except for
I don't mind Christine. I'm just kidding. All right. Well, we're going to start wrapping up this episode of the Comic Book Bears. And when we do so, we have two end segments. The first of which is where we show off our Geek Gets, things that we've gotten over the fortnight since we were last together that are somewhat geeky in construction and conception. So, Steve, I know you're usually the guy that doesn't have anything. Do you at least have McDonald's toys or something?
In fact, that's exactly what I have is McDonald's toys. So, one of the wacky things McDonald's loves to do weird things with, with popular kids' toys, and one of the more interesting ones that they have currently going on is Sanrio meets the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So it is comic related, but here we have Hello Kitty as Leonardo. Which I think is just really wild. But they have multiple ones. There's about 16 different combinations of Hello Kitty characters mixed with, the 4 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So you can get a whole mess of them. And then also, weirdly, they're doing the adult Happy Meal thing again. And this one is called a Trip to McDonald Land. And so you get these souvenir tins that are filled with a ticket with passport information, stickers. Here's an identification card from Ronald McDonald. More stickers, some postcards, like fill your life with scary apple pie trees, who will probably steer your soul as well. Just wacky things, and it's supposed to be a trip of nostalgia. For all those kids who grew up in the 70s and 80s with McDonald Land. I don't know how much nostalgia I had. I thought this was kind of weird, but it does. If you do get it, it comes with a bright purple shake. So with pink foam.
Yeah, about 2 weeks ago, I went through a drive-through McDonald's here in Little Rock, and I got a 6-piece nugget because I was like, I want the toy. And I got something like weird. Yeah, it was just McDonald's member. I'm like, I don't want like this.
Oh, it's like yeah. I got one of those.
Yeah, I was like, I don't. This is not. I don't know.
That's not the adult.
Oh, the oldest words like mini McDonald's. I have a bunch of those.
Yeah,
like this one. This one's
a cash register or something.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah,
this one's supposed to be a mobile phone that has the McDonald's app on it. Like that was the toy. I was like, you're crazy. They have like a payment machine. Like you can get a payment machine that's McDonald's themed. They're going.
What
Yeah.
All right, over to Caleb. Caleb, do you have any Geek Gets?
I have a Geek Get, but it's going to be a very particular kind of Geek Get. Not even sure it qualifies. I'm winging it here. Bless. I haven't had time to go get any Geek Get nerdy stuff, but. And it's also a way for me to kind of forewarn you all. There may be an episode in September that I will not be able to be on with these fellas. For the first time in my life, I am getting on a plane and I am traveling outside of the United States. I've never been outside of the U.S. before, so I'm really excited. My husband and I are going on vacation with some friends to Greece, and my Geek Get this week is a travel guide to Santorini for 2005. That I'm reading just to kind of get some tips on maybe where to go, some cool places to eat, some things to see, and just kind of get a feel for what I might see there, and kind of mapping out where I want to go, and maybe some places to go for some runs and get off the beaten path and go for some hikes and stuff while I'm out there, because I really don't feel like being on a plane for that long to go somewhere that's just really touristy that feels like the same place I just left. So this is my Geek Get. Travel guide to Santorini for 2005. Apparently, captivating adventures through volcanic beauty await me, and I'm excited about that. So that's where I'm headed. So September, here I come.
Very nice. How long is your trip going to be?
Short. So we're going to be gone a total of 7 days. So we're spending, I think, 4 days in Santorini, 1 day in Athens, and then it'll be the rest of the other 2 are travel days. So not super long. But we're also not trying to spend a ton of money right now, considering the state of everything, and just paying off some bills and stuff like that. But we wanted to do a good vacation and stuff, and go to a place that we've never seen before. So, a week, piggybacked by some really long plane rides. It's going to be a good time.
Awesome.
Okay, cool. Okay, so for me, I had all the opportunities to get Geek Gets other than comics, and I really didn't get anything in the last week. Even at the convention, I did pick up one thing at the convention that was not a comic. I did get the one Ultra figure that I did not have from Mego, the Ultra Mantica.
Huh.
So now I have all four. And it's nice to get Amigo because Migo's kind of on moratorium as we wait, like tariffs and all kinds of nonsense. So, good to get something new. And I know that Caleb, he really hated Joey from Superman.
Still
He
don't
really
understand why.
Yeah. So this was from a line called the Spin Master Chompers, and I haven't seen these around much in other stores. So I decided to return to the store that I originally went to because I did not see them around. And I decided to get the Chomper Baby Kaiju and the Chomper Crypto. And they chomp.
Look at them chomp.
I want a Chomper Crypto.
You want a Chomper Crypto?
I do. That's adorbs.
Okay. Well, if you can find them, I'll try to find them. I'll try to get one for you. And the Kaiju is actually, I think, like the really cutest.
The little teeth. The little teeth.
So yeah, like not the most exciting batch of Geek Gets, but certainly exciting news with Caleb going to be away for a week.
I'm excited to see what's out in the world. I might not come back.
That's nice.
Just gonna go to the closest place I can find and ask for amnesty.
All right, well, we're going to wrap up the show, and we're at our final segment, which is something we call the Woofs of the Week. In the bear community, if you find a fella attractive, you woof at him. There was a lot of woofing on Saturday, I'll tell you. And we do something very similar here, where we woof at something which may be comic book or comic book related. It may also be a film or charitable initiative, anything under the sun that we think you, fair listener or viewer, may be interested in sampling. I'll start, as I always do, with Steve. Steve, what is your woof of the week?
My woof of the week is a TV show that I think we just mentioned at the very beginning of the show. I got
to ask this. How can it be your woof of the week if you haven't seen it yet?
It doesn't matter because I loved the first season and I'm going to love the second season. Okay. I've been waiting for this for way too long. And that is, if I can pull it up, there it is, Peacemaker Season 2. Mm-hmm. So a couple of cool things about this. They decided to create it or get a new theme song for season 2. So the new theme song is going to be "Oh Lord" by Foxy Shazam. So there will be a brand new dance sequence, new song, etc. The old one was Wigwam's "Do You Want to Taste It," which, I mean, was just a vision of loveliness, the dance sequence. So I'm really excited about this one. And then on top of it, it has pretty much the entire returning cast. But we also do have some additional people on here. We've got Frank Grillo is making his appearance as Rick Flag Sr., who was just recently in Superman, but he also made an appearance in Creature Commandos. You've got Tim Meadows in here. You've got Saul Rodriguez. And Michael Rooker is coming back, but in a different context. So we'll have to see about that. And then, of course, we're going to have some great little cameos from Nathan Fillion, Isabella Merced, and Sean Gunn from the recent Superman movie. So I'm super excited about this. Plus, I love John Cena. And they really do play up in this season. They play up the fact that he is bisexual. By, of course, having everybody's favorite giant orgy that he will be participating in. So, anyway, that's my whoop of the week.
All right. Over to Caleb. Caleb, what is your wolf of the week?
All right, my wolf of the week is going to be kind of a sad one. It's not, normally wolves are things that we celebrate, stuff like that. As Bill mentioned, charitable initiatives, things we want you to go look out for. But mine is just more of a, I don't in memoriam. I don't know. I'm a huge fan of a particular band, Mastodon. Have been for a long time. Got most of, if not everything, that they've produced on vinyl to some degree, and that's Mastodon. Yesterday, over the last year, there's been a lot of drama about the band. Brett Hines, longtime guitarist, very intricate part of the band, very integral part of the band. Had a big rift between his bandmates and quit or was kicked out. It's not clear if you listen to one.
Depends who you
Yeah,
ask. Yeah.
so everybody kind of says something different. Just 2 weeks ago, made a public statement saying that his bandmates were terrible people and that kind of thing. So there's been a big rift. There's been a lot of drama around it. But unfortunately, yesterday he was out riding his Harley and a car cut in front of him, didn't signal, and there was a collision and he died. He passed away. And I found out the news today, and it's I've never met the band, right? I've never actually seen them in concert. Never had the privilege to see them in concert.
Okay.
I wanted to. I tried to catch the tour with Gojira, and I just didn't get to. But I'm a huge fan of their catalog. It's gotten me through a lot. It means a lot to me. I love the music. I love his guitar work. And it's just really sad. It is sad to see a band that is one of my favorite bands break up over the past year to some degree, or at least lose a member. They replaced him and have been still touring. And just to see the last year of his life to end like this is very heartbreaking. He's a very talented man. He had a couple of other side bands. If you ever listen to him speak, had a very interesting way of looking at the world and kind of translating it into things like a lot of artists do. And he really was a true artist. So kind of a very sad, solemn day. And I just want to say, for those, just number one, how much I appreciated his work. Gonna miss his presence in the world. Sorry things worked out the way it did. And it's, just rest in peace and thanks for the music. It's a tragic situation. His bandmates put out a statement today saying, nothing about the last year matters. They're all heartbroken. No one wanted, this, it doesn't matter. They're going to miss him. They always will miss him. It's a very important part of their life. And they did it in a very classy way. So, condolences to his family, condolences to his friends, condolences to his fans, folks like me who had really no connection to the person, but just really appreciated the art that he put out into the world. It sucks. It really sucks. And there's no other way to put that. So, R.I.P. Brett Hines.
Yeah.
Mastodon fucking forever.
Yeah, and it's not said enough. Like, of the band's three singers, he was by far the best.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
That I think that's one of the reasons why they kind of can continue, as Mastodon, is, because he wasn't the only vocalist in the band, but it's a big loss.
It is.
It's a very big loss. Yeah. Okay, well, mine is on the sad side, but it's also a bit on the celebratory side, and it's also music related. So on Tuesday night, I saw the Who's stop on their Farewell US tour at the Prudential Center in Newark. It was my 26th time seeing them since 1982, and I'm going to miss this band a lot. I know that there's always these jokes about, they're on another farewell tour. Well, there's a big difference when it's guys in their late 30s saying it's a farewell tour and guys in their early 80s saying it's their farewell tour. There definitely was a sense on the night of closure. Luckily, even though Roger Daltrey has aged a lot in the last 2 or 3 years, he did sound in very good voice on Tuesday night, and the tag of the tour is "The Song Is Over," which is a song from Who's Next. It's also, interestingly, a song that the band has never performed live before, which blew my mind. And then looking at checklists, like, yeah, you really can say that. Yeah. So they didn't close the set. They closed the set with "The Song Is Over." on the previous night where the tour kicked off in Sunrise, Florida. But on this night, they played another song, which is very touching, called Teen Theater. But I have to say, for whatever time I have left on this earth, I will never forget how much that performance of that song moved me. I'm going to miss the hell out of this band. And I know the days that Roger and Pete leave us, I'm going to be a wreck.
Yep.
So you guys better check in on me when that does happen. I've never met Roger Daltrey. I did meet Pete Townsend twice. And so in terms of that, again, it's still a cause to celebrate because they do have a catalog. It's a very accessible catalog. Through their history, they only put out 12 studio albums. So it's not a huge catalog. When you add in the live albums, yeah. But so I would encourage people, if you don't know the Who, to explore. If it's through streaming, fine, that's your thing. Again, I'm a guy that likes ownership. So just there are vinyl counterparts of the stuff I'm going to show, but I just grabbed the CDs really quick. There's a ton of greatest hits album. There are literally dozens of Who greatest hits album. The two that are probably the most easily accessible are the Who Icon and the Millennium Collection. One has 10, one has 12 tracks. These are the easiest to find. The greatest hits compilation that I grew up with, though, was their Meaty Beaty Big and Bouncy compilation. This is also just going knowing that there's nothing after 1971 on this collection. But if you do want to go over to a studio album, I would suggest going over to Who's Next. Again, many classic songs that came off this album, principally Won't Get Fooled Again, Behind Blue Eyes, and Baba O'Reilly. There are deluxe editions. There's an exquisite super deluxe edition that I just haven't been able to justify the $120 on at this point. But if they're a band that's in any way that you're unfamiliar with, check them out, because for a band of a particular power and a particular intelligence, the rewards are many. Let me put it that way. So my Wolf of the Week is the Who. Unfortunately, tonight's show was postponed due to illness in the band, which is scary. But if you are in an area where one of the remaining dates is there, and especially if you've never seen them, it's a great chance to see one of the legendary groups live. I, of course, was too young to see them at their live peak when Keith Moon was alive, but from 1982 to now, to last Tuesday, I saw 26 shows. I'm also in this situation right now, and I hope people understand this. I have the opportunity to see like 2 other shows because this was always such a big market, the New York area, for them. So there's a show in Atlantic City, they have the Newark, they have Madison Square Garden. My debate right now is whether I just leave it as is because it was a good show, or I try it another time, try to get another one in. I'm still pulling that debate in my head. I'm going to see how these postponements go. But I'm going to miss the hell out of this band. I really, really am. And I just love that they ever existed.
Yeah.
So, The Who.
Yeah. I recommend, if you have not listened to The Who, that you come to it through a video that's available online. But there was a comedian, Joe Pera, in one of his episodes. He, as his character of Joe Pera, discovers Baba O'Reilly and becomes absolutely obsessed with the song. And it's Baba O'Reilly is one of those songs that even if you've never heard it, you've actually heard it.
Yep.
You know it like the back of your hand, even though you don't know maybe who sung it or where it's from or how old it is. You will immediately recognize it. And I think that's one of the things that I love so much about Who music. And I'm not a huge Who fan, and I don't own any albums, but you know, the songs that I know of them, like when they come on, you just it just feels good. So yeah, totally get that. Awesome.
Oh god, I'm already thinking about like the world without Daltrey and Townsend. Oh, oh. All right. We didn't need to end on a down note like
Well,
that.
the good news, so that's not necessarily a down note. The good news is because the music that they produced is what it is, there will never actually be a world without them.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So,
That's
and that's same with Brent Hines. I can go listen to him. I can live vicariously through those things. There will never be a world without them.
Yeah. All right. That's it. Hope you've enjoyed your summer. Ending these pup days here. So again, we are the Comic Book Bears podcast. You can find us on the Twitter and the Tumblr. Remember Tumblr? Tumblr, yeah. The old introduction. Anyway, you can find us on many of the social media outlets as Comic Book Bears. I say for Facebook, where we are Comic Book Bears Podcast. You can listen to us through Apple Podcasts, through Spotify, and many of the other podcatching platforms. If you've joined us tonight through YouTube or Steve, just help me out since we made the transition here.
Riverside is the
Riverside, yeah. YouTube, thank you for joining us. If you joined us live tonight, if you were watching us later on YouTube, please like and subscribe, and thank you for watching us there. If you want to write to us, please do so by sending an email to comicbookbears@gmail.com. Until next time, I'm Bill Zanowitz.
I'm Steve Morey.
I'm Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
If you're listening to the audio version, you're going to hear Woof and an explosion. We'll be back real soon. Take care, everyone.
Bye. Woof. Boom.